The book is called Totaled, the billion-dollar crash of the startup that took on big auto, big oil, and the world. And it is really what happened to this amazing company, Better Place. Quickly about me, just so you know who I am, I'm a business and technology journalist. I write for a whole bunch of publications, some of which you may know, Haaretz, the Jerusalem Post, Israel 21C, where I write about technology and innovations from Israel. And I also, a whole bunch of years ago, in 1998, do have an entrepreneurial background. I started a company, it's there on the lower right, called Netaphor. We were an early internet publishing company, and we were a fuck up because we raised $3.2 million, and then we went out of business. So I guess I got those chops as well. I want to ask, who in the room has heard of Better Place? Raise your hands. Okay, almost everybody. This is great. I spent 2 weeks in California, just got back last week, and I would ask people who heard of Better Place, and maybe half the room, sometimes no one. It's like, it's so great to be in a room where everybody heard of Better Place. So Better Place was a company that wanted to build the world's first affordable electric car network that would use the technology that was available in 2007, okay? Not in 2012, not in 2017, but in 2007, which is when the company got started, to address what we call in the electric car business is range anxiety. That's the concern and feel that when you're driving, you're going to run out of electricity, you're going to get stuck in the middle of the road, and there's not going to be a place to recharge. There's not going to be a gas station because it doesn't run on gas. So Better Place's idea was they would install charge spots in everybody's home, and they would build this network battery switching stations. Okay, what that meant is that you would pull your car into what looked like a gas station or even a car wash, and a robot would come in, take out your old battery, put it into the station, bring in a fresh battery, and off you would go, and you could get unlimited range. You could drive literally from the Golan Heights to Eilat and back, and you would never run out of juice, and you would never have to worry about range anxiety. That was their big idea. Of course, it didn't work, but that was the idea. Now, I just want to show you something else.
The electric car is the future of transportation in a world free from dependence on oil. Better Place took that concept further and developed the battery switch model, the world's most innovative and convenient way to allow electric car drivers to travel long distances without having to take long breaks to recharge. The battery switch is performed in a network of battery switch stations, which are located at strategic spots, much like traditional gas stations. From the moment you enter the switch station, advanced robots are standing by with a fresh battery. The fully automated system developed by Better Place works simultaneously to switch your depleted battery with a fully charged one. You don't have to exit the car, and you are constantly updated along the process, which takes even less time than it took to fill up your car with gas. Drive, Switch, and Go makes the electric car suitable for everyone. A car that can go anywhere conveniently and affordably.
We got a car that's more convenient. It goes as long as you want. It's not limited by range. It's not limited by time. It's cheap to buy. It actually keeps its value. The side effects, you save the world.
Drive, switch, go. It's as simple as that.
This thing was the coolest thing ever. We would take people on field trips just to go into the switch station. We didn't have to go anywhere. We'd just say, let's go to the switch station and do a switch. It was so cool. Now, I want to go back, the slide I showed you a moment ago, and just give you my personal story in this, and this is my personal fuck up in this, and that is that we were not just, I didn't just write the book about Better Place, but we owned a Better Place car. And the story of how we got into it is really the story of how this book came to be. So my family and I were looking for something to do in the summer of 2012, okay, this is at the height of Better Place's, selling curve. And we'd gone with the kids to the beach, and we'd been to the museum, and we'd been to the movies. It was summer break. And we said, you know what, why don't we go to Piglilot, which is just, near Herzliya, north of Tel Aviv, where Better Place has this demonstration center, visitor center, with an amazing, you could take a demonstration ride and drive the electric car. So we did. And we had never been in an electric car. We didn't plan on buying an electric car, but we got in that thing, and we drove for, like a minute and a half. And it was smooth, and it was powerful, and it was quiet, and it was green. And we just, like it says here, we fell in love. That's my wife and I there on the right, unveiling the car that we bought 2 weeks later, okay? We put our money down 2 weeks. Now, a month after we put our money down, before we actually got the car, news broke that the CEO of the company had been fired. And we thought, uh-oh, this is not good, okay? Why has the CEO been fired? And then news broke that the company was running out of money, that they had 3 weeks left of cash. It's like, and we haven't got our car yet. And we thought, okay, so I called up the salesperson and said, can we get our money back? I was like, and he said, no, the car's already at the dock, it's already here. And I was like, oh, I guess we'll see what we can do. We'll do our best. And 9 months later, the company went bankrupt completely. $850 million they raised, and the company was gone. The switch stations were closed. Our car could not get past, first we could drive it from Jerusalem, where I live, to the airport. And then we could drive it to Modi'in, because the batteries, they're like, cell phone batteries or laptop batteries. The batteries degrade, okay? And then we could drive it to Beit Shemesh, and then we couldn't drive it past Jerusalem. And I thought, okay, I am a journalist. I do tons and tons of research. If I'm going to go on a vacation, for a couple of weeks, I'll spend 6 weeks researching every possible destination and hotel and attraction, and and for this car, I didn't do any research. We just fell in love, and 2 weeks later put our money down. And I thought, okay, in addition to that being my fuck up for the night, that was also me not doing what journalists do, which is not doing my due diligence. That's what you say in the VC world. So I wound up, interviewing people and trying to get to the bottom of what happened to the company. Why did it go out of business? And the book is, in a way, my due diligence. So that's the personal story. Okay, the reason most of you, when you think of Better Place, you're asking what went wrong. So I told you my story. Now we're going to really briefly, because very short time tonight, but everybody in Israel has a theory, has an idea. You put two Israelis in a room, you get 3 ideas of what happened, right? So, what happened to Better Place? And, was it, whose fault was it? What killed the company? Was it Shai Agassi? That's the guy on the lower left that you saw in the video, the CEO and founder of the company. Was it Renault, the company, the manufacturer that made the cars, the Fluence ZE that Better Place sold? Was it Idan Ofer, the guy in the middle on the bottom? He was the chairman of the board. He was a multi-billionaire worth $4.5 billion. He put the initial $200 million into the company. Maybe he didn't manage the company well. Or maybe it was the state of Israel. They didn't do enough to help the company. And the truth is, and here's a lesson, if there's any lesson for everyone here, I'm guessing that most of you are not going to be building electric car companies, right? And most of you, maybe not today, are building companies that raise $1 billion. But there are lessons that you can learn from this very big story for your own companies. And the real lesson is this. When you build a company, you start by building a business plan. And in that business plan, you have to put assumptions. You have to assume what the costs will be, in this case, what the car would cost, what the switching stations would cost to build, what the burn rate will be, all of these different things, right? That's what you have to put in. And then as time goes on, you get real data and the assumptions change. So what do you do when all your assumptions seem to change at once? Do you stay the course or do you pivot? Okay, that's a term you hear all the time in the business world. In Better Place's case, well, let's just look at 3 small examples. I'm just going to quickly go through them of assumptions that Better Place had in their business plan that changed, and then we can decide whether or not Better Place, should have stayed the course or pivoted. So the company was fond of talking. Shai Agassi would talk all the time about how the car would be free, or it would be inexpensive, or it wouldn't cost a lot of money. But when the car became available for people to buy, look at the price there. It's not free. It cost the equivalent in shekels of $35,000. It was around 131,000 shekels. That is not a free car. And lesson for all of you: when you promise something to customers and then you can't deliver on it, people don't forget what you originally told them. And you know what? They don't forgive. They didn't forgive because they didn't want to buy the car. They were angry. That's not what we expected. Now, along with that, there were out-of-control costs. And the book, which is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you can go to my website, brianblum.com, and I can tell you how to get it that way as well. It's a 350-page book with incredible amount of detail and juicy tidbits. But in short, the company spent more money than it was bringing in. And one example of that is the cost of those switch stations. Okay, there were 42 of them, and they were supposed to cost $500,000 a piece. What number have I written there, if you can read that? $3 million. That's not 500,000. Multiply that by 42, and you've got cost overruns. On the right there, you've got a picture of the charge spots, how you plug in your car. And the charge spots were supposed to cost around $150, $200 per charge spot, but they were costing $1,000 to $1,500 per charge spot, including the installation. And Better Place included the installation as part of the cost of the car. So again, we're going over and over and over in terms of our costs, and that's beginning to lead to what turned out to be a burn rate of $1 million a day. That's a lot of money the company was spending. Now, I got a picture here of the Dead Sea, and why do I have that picture there with a sign that says no entry? Because when Renault made the car originally, they promised a range of 180 kilometers. But when we got the car, and people actually got to drive it with the heat and the air conditioning and everything else, it only got 140 kilometers. All right, well, I wrote there's 160 kilometers between the two stations at the Dead Sea. What does that mean? You can't drive the Dead Sea route. Now, I go from Jerusalem to Eilat, I go by way of the Dead Sea. So I interviewed a couple that lived at Kibbutz Kalia, in the Dead Sea. And I said, how do you get to Eilat? You know, your car can't make it to the next switch station. That was the one at Kalia, one at Sapir. I said, oh, well, we drive to the hotels at the Dead Sea at Masada. We have a cable, we plug into an outlet, we sit for a couple of hours, have a cup of coffee, and then we have enough juice to get us to the next switch station where we can switch our battery and get to Eilat. That was not something that customers wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear it. That's not the reason the company went out of the business, but it's an example of assumptions that change. I think the last slide I really want to show you in terms of changing assumptions, and it's actually not even really an assumption so much, but it's a lesson for everyone in business. When you build something, you want it to be unique on the inside, but you also want it to be unique on the outside. Tell me if you can tell the difference between the gasoline-powered Renault Fluence on the left, the white one, and the electric Renault Fluence ZE. ZE stands for zero emissions on the right. I can't tell. Other than there's a little round hole for where the charge spot is, and the grill is a little different. It's not unique enough. Remember when the Prius came out? Ever seen a Tesla or a Chevy Bolt or any of those electric cars? They look different, they look unique, and people looked at this, and I remember we drove our car, and if it wasn't for the fact that we had a big decal that said 100% electric on the side, people wouldn't have known. All right, so question now. I've given you 3 tiny little tidbits. Should Better Place have stuck with the business plan, with the assumptions in the plan, or should they have pivoted? Actually, I'm not going to let you answer the question because we are out of time. I cannot believe that already. So I will leave you to go to the website. There's my email. There's my web address. And I think we have time for some questions, right? Okay. So how do you want to do this?
So interesting, because I panic when my electric bike runs out of battery, so I can't imagine if like my car all of a sudden started running out of battery in like the Dead Sea. Right. So can you tell us, I know you won't give away the pivot or not, but can you tell us where is Better Place now? And with all those, I see along when you're driving up north, you see all those like charging stations. So what's happening with all of those?
That is a great question. I you know what? I actually have a slide there that I put on there just in case somebody asked that question. And Marta asked the question. Thank you. On the left is me in front of the Jerusalem switching station. Now, if you remember the video at the beginning, you saw the robots and the battery going in and out, and it's so cool. This is what it looks like today. It's a wreck. There's broken glass. There's garbage in there. There's no equipment. It's a mess. The station is next to the Jerusalem main cemetery, okay? Which, in fact, I wanted to call the book originally not Totaled, but Gone to a Better Place. But my agent convinced me that was not such a good idea, and so it became Totaled. On the right is the switching station in Beit Shemesh. Can you tell what they're selling there? You can see the sign. What are they selling? Tombstones. I mean, if I had to write a more appropriate epitaph for a company that lost $1 billion, it would be as tombstone selling spot. All right, that's where the company is today. Other questions?
Literally depressing. Anybody else have a question? Yes. She wants the answer. Should they pivot?
Oh. You mean you don't want to read the 350 pages? I mean, in my opinion, there were options for pivoting, yes. None of them would have been good for me as a Better Place car owner in Israel, but they could have moved operations to China. They could have focused on electric taxis. There were options. There were things. They could have shut down the entire Israel operation. That's true, but they didn't. And I told you that they raised, they were spending $1 million a day. So in January 2012, the company had just raised its Series C round of financing of $200 million. All right, now let's do the math. Can we do some math? $200 million, $1 million a day. How long will that last? Marta?
Not long.
No, you have to do the math.
No.
200 million, $1 million a day.
200.
Okay, Marta was not a math major, neither was I, but I think it lasts 200 days. And that is when they ran out of money, around October 2012, right when we got our car. So there's a question. I was a couple weeks ago in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Auto Show, the automotive show, and I went to a lot of lectures, and there is a linkage, and the linkage is like this. Electric cars are growing, and there's more and more of them, but they're still kind of stuck. They're not moving ahead. They're not taking off in any big way. They represent about 2% of sales in the United States right now, which is not a lot. And one of the things I think we learned from the Better Place example is that that electric cars are not going to take off until they're as convenient as gasoline-powered cars, which means they only take 5 minutes to recharge, not like right now they can take 30 minutes, or they can take 6 hours or 2 hours. You got to be able to recharge them fast. You got to be able to recharge them everywhere. And so what I've been saying in my talks is that it's not going to be until the cars are as convenient as a gasoline-powered car that they'll take off. However, at this auto show, somebody made a great point, which is as autonomous cars, self-driving cars take off, electric cars suddenly get a use case. They get an example where you can't use a gasoline-powered car because an autonomous car has to charge itself up. It's not going to pull into a gas station and pull out a nozzle and stick gas in and the whole thing. It's going to pull into an electric spot. So the prediction is as we hit autonomous car age in the next 10 years, that may be the tipping point for electric cars. So that would be the connection. Yes? Oh, are we out of time?
Yes.
We're out of time.
But Brian will be here and you can ask him questions afterwards.
Thank you.